Hello and welcome back. What I want to do right now is to discuss, not to talk about, to remind you about these things we call beliefs and values. Now, most of us will hold these very dear to us. An example would be that what's important to me is that people speak the truth. And when they don't speak the truth, or when they lie to me, I then become stressed. Now, you've heard me say this before, you can't make me mad, I make myself mad. You can't annoy me, I annoy myself through what I hear, see, feel, taste, smell, and maybe have an intuitions and other sense. So what I want to do is give you some examples, and then what I want you to do is to look at your own life and where do you have very strong beliefs and values that probably don't serve you. And what I mean by that is they bring you stress, because I'll give you an example. A parachute. If you imagine your mind is like a parachute, yeah? It's absolutely bloody useless unless it's open. So when this is open, the heart's open, and you're more aware of what could be as opposed to what is. Remember, if you fight your reality, it usually causes you stress, and one way of doing that is by having very strong beliefs and values. And I'm not saying not to have strong beliefs and values, I'm just saying, do they serve you and those around you? Because your life isn't your own. Why? Because your mum went through a lot of pain to have you, and if you've got children, those are two good reasons why your life is not your own. So you're here for a reason, and like myself, we're not here to cause ourselves suffering just so others can benefit from it. Unless, of course, they are benefit from it, and it's for a greater good. So I'll give you an example of my mother. My mother, bless her and my dad, they've got very strong beliefs and values about people that swear all the time, a cuss word. Now, to me, when I was raised, I know it's not good to swear. However, there might be an appropriate time, perhaps like if I dropped a brick on my big toe and I might use the F word. Now, that would be acceptable for my mother, but if I just, you know, used it often or in a general sentence, then my mum would get annoyed. Now notice she's getting annoyed because of her beliefs and values, and that annoyance would then be projected onto me. Now if you, like myself, want to become the change you want to see in the world, then we've got to be that. That doesn't mean that we've got to be angry, and I'll do another recording on anger, because anger is a beautiful thing. There's nothing wrong with anger if it's not pure aggression, and there may be a place for that as well. But coming back to beliefs and values, so if you have some beliefs and values that are very dear to you, another silly example that I often give is like if I'm working with somebody, and just imagine somebody walked past that was naked, and you're working with somebody like, oh my God, I can't believe they got no clothes on. Now for me, obviously, if that happened, the judgments that would come up, because judgments are the first things that bring stress. From a physiological point of view, they cause you stress. I can't believe they dyed their hair red. Look at that, silly. You know, anything along those lines. If you're able to catch yourself, then let me give you this as a useful tool. Interrupt your pattern. I'll give you an example. If I'm having a conversation with somebody, and let's say that somebody walks past who's naked, or somebody with red hair, I'd be distracted. Now, I just had a conversation with them, but I've just been distracted, and I come back. What was I saying? My pattern's just been interrupted, yeah? And that's what I want you to do. When you realise that your strong beliefs and values are causing you stress and to judge and to, you know, be your own worst enemy as opposed to your own best friend, those are the two choices that we really have day to day. Are you being your best friend, or are you being your worst enemy? Then you can interrupt your pattern. Just like if somebody, you know, if I'm having a conversation and somebody butts in, but you've got to do that, whether you flip your ears or flip your nose or you make a stupid pig noise or start barking like it doesn't matter. But you've got to find something that you can do which will interrupt your pattern. And then you want to replace it with one that better serves you. One example is, for me, you know, having been, you know, mentally abused and edumacated, you know, I'm so intelligent. At least I think I am. At so many universities and establishments that to me, I think, I know what's right, and this is what it is. And if it doesn't go that way, then an example would be somebody who's obese or fat. And I've got nothing, I form no judgments, but initially in my in my past, I would, because I've been taught, you know, a lot of physiology. How come that person's so fat? No, it's the stress I'm causing myself. I've not lived the lifestyle that they've lived. I haven't, you know, had the programming and the conditioning by their parents that they've had. I've been surrounded by the same probably dysfunctional foods as them. Whatever the situation is, I haven't had their experience. And as that famous quote by Emerson says, do not judge another until you have walked a mile in their shoes. But just notice what's happening. So if I see somebody who's weight challenged or obese or fat, I actually interrupt my pattern and I send them love. I just do that. I just automatically send them love because they have lived a unique lifestyle I haven't. And what I'm noticing is that I want to force my beliefs and values onto them. Well, guess what? It ain't gonna freaking work. So I interrupt my pattern and I don't do that. And I'm more likely, if anything, to attract that person as a client. Well, you know, that's just another extreme of looking at the flip side or the positive side. So beliefs and values, we all have them, we're all very, very dear to them, but what are yours? In other words, what I'm asking, I'm inviting you on a journey to have a look at yourself, put yourself underneath the microscope, and don't get stressed about it, but find out, what do you do that does or does not serve you or those around you? Interrupt your pattern. And while you're doing this, have fun. You know, if you catch yourself like me, I'm very controlling, but it probably comes out in some of my recordings. I'm a control freak. And my previous relationships, they actually told me that. They said, you're very controlling. Yeah, whatever. You know what? You know, I said before about the parachute, my mind was closed. I wasn't open to that until probably a few years ago. And I suddenly thought, you know what? Maybe there's some truth in what they're saying. And I was able to open my mind, open my heart and be more aware of it. But the other thing, and I'll leave this one with you, don't get so disconnected from there and there. Bring the two together. That really does make me feel good when I do that. So find out what beliefs and values, and I'll guarantee that you probably picked them up by up to age 7 and you got them from your parents or your guardians or those that took care of you. Remember, if Jim Rohn is correct when he made the statement that you are the average of 5 people you spend time with, are those people positive or perhaps negative if we're going to go into labelling again? And if they're negative and they kind of drag you down, then maybe you have got a better choice to make and maybe, you know, change your friends or find somebody who's more upbeat and positive who you can resonate with. That would better serve you. So have a look at your beliefs and values. I invite you on that journey. And if you want to change it, you've got to find something where you can interrupt your pattern and then replace it with one that will better serve you. And usually what I find is the law of polarity works where there's always an opposite. So if you're thinking quite negatively about an individual, judging yourself of course, because you wouldn't look like that, you wouldn't talk like that, in fact you wouldn't be like that, that's basically, it's always about you, then what could you be like then? And it's usually the flip side to it. Have a go, have fun, enjoy. Wishing loads of peace and love. My name's Magnus Mulliner. Bye for now.